Hi, this is Mariana from Mariana Reads, and today I want to start a series where basically I'm in my pajamas talking about my favorite books of all time. First, I wanted to do this because I missed my chance of filming my 2021 favorite books, so I want to film this series where I talk about my all time favorite books because it's a lot of pressure to talk about my favorite books in a year, so I like talking throughout my reading experience in my life. So, I'm not going to talk about all of them. I want this to be a series. So, I guess we will begin with. Should I begin with my all time favorite book? Okay, let's begin. My bookshelf is there. This is one of my three copies of The Song of Achilles, and I guess you can say, oh, that's such a basic answer. I read this before it was famous. This is my biggest flex. And I was able to ask Madeline Miller in COVID. It's not in COVID, pre COVID, in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. I was able to ask her two questions in a live show she did. And you know, a book is good that I was calculating how many pages I could stretch this book because I didn't want to finish this book so quickly. Okay, let me show you my OG copy. I loved this copy too. This is my OG copy. OG to the point the pages are turning yellow. I love it. Oh my god, what do I have here? I have a little sticky note. And yes, and as I said before, I'm terrible at describing books, but I will tell you what I like about this book. I like their promise. I like their unconditional, irrevocable love they have for each other. I love that they want to be good, not only for themselves but for each other, and they motivate each other to reach their goals, to reach happiness, to reach a place in their lives they are happy with themselves and with the others around them. But this ultimately gets a little sidetracked because of the Trojan War, and I I love that Madeline Miller made them flawed characters, especially Achilles. Achilles is supposed to be perfect. He's destined to be perfect, the perfect Greek. And throughout the description of the Trojan War, you can tell Achilles is not perfect. He has personal motives, he has, for example, he has his own set of morals, and he has like, I can do this but I cannot do this, and I like that he sticks to his morals. And yes, and I think the most beautiful thing about this book is their love. I love love. I love reading about love. I love their love, how she portrayed it. It was so genuine, innocent, pure. It was unconditional. I They were soulmates. They were not lovers, they are soulmates. And she wrote that in the most beautiful way. I get tear eyed every time I talk about this book. I don't want to cry in video, but yes. The Song of Achilles. I love the final moments in this book after spoilers, I guess. I The thing that get me is that they were always expecting Achilles to die first, but it was Patroclus who died first. And I like how nobody, especially Achilles, nobody was expecting that. And I love how Patroclus died, and I love Achilles' reaction to it. It showed unconditional love, intemporal love. Love. I love Achilles. I love how he loves Patroclus, and I love how Patroclus loves Achilles. I love this book. This is one for the history books. This will be and already his modern classic, although this is a literally Bloomsbury's modern classics, and I am so glad I have this. I can also show this. I also have the special edition hardcover, 10th anniversary, and yes, this is the best. I think this is virtually the best book I've ever read. So yes, enough of the Song of Achilles. Otherwise, I will be here for hours talking about this book. But yes, all the TikTok craze, all the book talk craze, all the bookstagram craze. it is all worth it. I think she took 10 years to finish writing this, and you can tell she put her heart and soul into this book. And yes, I think this one is for the history books. Then, what should I talk about? I will only talk about two books today. Let me grab. This is a rather recent one. This is the last book I read last year in 2021, and it ultimately instantly became an all-time favorite, and that is none other than The Sword of Kaigen. This is a self-published adult fantasy book, and so much this is huge, and so much happened in this book, and I cannot tell you all about it. I cannot even describe the nuances of everything that happens, but I will tell you this. This follows a mother and son in POVs, dual POVs, a mother and a son. Mother called Misaki and son called Mamoru. I will not talk about the son because it will become rather spoilerish, but I will say Misaki is top all-time favorite character I've ever read, if not my favorite character of all time. I I still have a lot of years of reading ahead of me to make this affirmation, but I I love Misaki. I love that she is a grown adult woman. I love it. It is not common in fantasy to read about women that are mothers, that are married, that, for example, okay, let me tell about Misaki. She this is like this setting of this book. I cannot describe it very well because this takes place in an island, Kaigen, but for example, this sounds like rural. Sometimes there are people coming there to install communications towers. So this is basically an island that is trying to resist like innovation or whatever. Yes, I love Misaki. I love the history behind her character because in her earlier years, she had a career. She was basically a warrior. She went to training school, combat school, warrior school. I don't know the correct term, but yes. Let me see if it says here. Yes, basically that. And she was pretty iconic. But because she was a woman, she was obliged to say like goodbye to all of that and marry. And she had to become a housewife, and we follow that, and we follow her daily life as war starts to come to Kaigen. And this book is I love this book. I love the relationship she has with Mamoru, with her other kids. I love how she is a good member in her society, an active member in her society. I love her friendships. She's friends with women like her that are married, that are mothers, and I love what Misaki represents in the fantasy genre. This is a standalone fantasy, so you should all read this. And this is very heavy. You should check the trigger warnings because there are sexual assault, sexual abuse, violence, and yes, I also love the magic system in here. They have a thing that is like blood. Blood. Let me see. It's a blood needle, blood qualquer coisa. His family, their family is called Matsuda family. In specific families, they have a specific magical ability that not every member of the family can do it, and we follow the how a legacy evolves in a time of war. And this is beautiful. This talks about motherhood, about grief, about death, about war, about friendships, about surviving. Yes, I think this is best way of surviving. And my favorite thing about this book is how Misaki represents, for example, sometimes we forget that our parents had total different lives before we even existed. They live a whole number of years before we existed, and sometimes we think they lost their identity because they are now parents. And I love this. I love that this show Misaki was Misaki even before she was a mother, and she continues to be Misaki after she becomes a mother. And people don't lose their identity because they become parents. And I love that about this book. I recommend this to everyone, but please check the trigger warning. This is very heavy, and please support this author. This is self-published, and the book is stunning. It is huge. You should truly support her. And yes, this is it for today's video. See you on the next one. Bye.